Okay, so welcome to our class on the 5 lies that are causing us to overeat and to not feel good about ourselves. So I'm going to do a little bit review. So many of you know that I have a group program. The group program is amazing. I love it because what I do is I walk people through weight loss science is simple. And when we understand that weight loss science is simple, we can actually create our own protocol and be completely empowered when it comes to food. Now, our diet industry does not want us to understand or to think that weight loss science is simple. They want us to keep paying lots and lots of money to try all the things, buy all the books. Okay? So my goal is for you to become independent in how you approach food. Then the second part of my program, we talk about emotions and emotional responsibility and how we think about our thinking and how thinking about our thinking helps us to become a better human. Because if we are always at the mercy of other people or other people hurt our feelings, then we don't own our own feelings. We don't understand it. We also do a lot of things like buffering. And that buffering, we turn to other things to try to make us feel better, which of course feels like we're out of control and we become like a lot of times a victim. So we do a lot of, and I teach a lot of tools to help you with that. And then the third part of my program is we talk about creating the future person who we want to be. So I wanted to just talk a little bit, and I want you to tell me how you can relate to this. So first of all, this is a typical journey of weight loss. So we feel really bad about ourselves. We go on the scale. So I have these little icons. By the way, my daughter was like, "Mom, you're really good at illustrations." I'm like, "Yes, these are very, very professional." So we have a scale, we step on the scale, and we feel really bad about ourselves because somehow we have some sort of thought of, I am not a good human because of this weight. And I mean, truthfully, if we are a certain weight and it affects our knees and our hips and all of that, and our blood pressure and of course, we don't feel good. And if we are carrying around an extra 100 pounds that we don't need to on our frame, it's going to be exhausting. It's not going to feel great. So that is a problem. So yes, of course. So you get on the scale and you don't feel good about yourself. Okay. So then what typically happens is we research like crazy. We go online, we talk to people, and we think, what can I do to solve this problem? Because I don't feel good. So then we go and we invest and we go all in no matter what. And we're like, okay, this has got to work. But the problem is we invest in a way that because we have the feeling like I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm insufficient. So if we go in thinking I'm not smart, I'm not good, I'm not capable of taking care of myself, then we abdicate, we say, okay, you just tell me what to do. I don't know how to do this. And what is the problem with that? We don't have any ownership. We don't really understand what's going on. And so we're at like the mercy of other people telling us what to do. And how does that feel? Terrible. I hear you. You can put it in the chat, by the way. I love when people participate. Okay. So when we're at the mercy of other people saying what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, we're not empowered. It's very interesting. I have clients who have lost 50 pounds in 6 months, 4 months. And I don't even know what they're eating. Every once in a while, I'm like, so what are you eating? Because the way I teach weight loss is to really start connecting to yourself, to owning what you're eating, to get your own protocol. And typically you can count on losing at least 1 to 2 pounds a week. Okay. Just with thinking about your thinking. So you go all in no matter what. You got this white knuckling thing. You're feeling very stressed and worried. And so you exhaust yourself with the program, and then you go on the scale and you wonder why you aren't happier. Because you never really learned to celebrate yourself along the way. You never really owned any of it. You're doing it for somebody else. Okay. Or else you get some success and you're like, okay, that process was exhausting. I don't want to be doing this anymore. So you're like, I'll just have some chips. I can lighten up a little. Because the way that you lost the weight was so exhausting. Rather than like, hey, I'm going to create this protocol. I'm going to see what works. And even some of my clients, I'll say, hey, this is exhausting, we're not doing it right. And that's okay, right? Because we're all in different stages of our brain. Because a lot of us think once I'm skinny, then I'll be happy. Once I can wear those pants, then I'll be happy. Okay. Once I have a certain number on the scale, then I can be happy. That's a very conditional relationship. So then we go to, we're struggling on the scale. We're not so happy. Instead of trying to figure out what happened, we actually go to the sabotage. And this is going to lead us into the webinar of today's topic. So we sabotage in several ways because we have this thought, I've never gotten to that weight before. I'm never going to get there. And I'm never going to stay there. And so then you look for evidence of why you can't be successful. So you think, well, all the women in my family, they tend to do that, right? So you go to the family history excuse, or you're like, my hormones are wild and crazy. Okay. And so I teach you that it's the way you think is what affects your hormones. So it's the other way around. It's not that you're in premenopause or you have menopause and so your hormones are all off. No, it's all our negative thoughts and the way we think affects how haywire our hormones become. So when we can get in check with our with our thoughts, then our hormones stabilize. The more calm we are about doing something, the more success we're going to have because our emotions and our hormones and all that, like our cortisol is with stress. And if we have a lot of stress, we're going to have a lot of belly fat. Okay, that's just the way it works. All right. Also, we can say, well, there's politics. If the politics were calmed down, things would be better. That's simply just, we've got more stress. There's just a lot of cortisol. Okay. So we convince ourselves that it's actually not possible for us to lose weight. We're like, those other people, they're a unicorn and something, or we are insufficient. We are like inherently broken. So it's not possible for us to lose any weight. So then we convince ourselves that it's not possible. So then of course we go to this next phase of resignation where we've lost all hope. So then we just go back to all the bad habits. And then we're just back over here where we feel really bad about ourselves. So then we go here and we just start over and over and over again. And our bookshelf just gets wider and wider with these books that of all these experts telling us what to do, and or we go to all these meetings that aren't helping us, and it's really, really frustrating. Okay. So what I help people do is I help them understand what the actual role of food is. I actually help you understand your feelings and be present with them to take responsibility for yourself. And I teach you how to understand how you can change your future. Okay. So weight is just the gravity on our bodies. We get curious. We start having some self-reflection and awareness. We're going to sort through our feelings. We're actually going to start really looking at ourselves, and we're going to start celebrating ourselves all the way. And this is a bird cage. And so we become free from all society's, the holdbacks. So now I'm going to so I just thought it'd be really fun for you just to get a little insight on what's going on for you. And in the chat, I want you to just tell me how many times you think, or you don't have to, you don't want to, but if you'd like to, tell me how many times you think you've gone through this cycle. And so when you think about losing hope, how that could be so real, right? So I do really want to let you know that there is hope. That when we understand the actual role of food, even just that one part, that's going to be a game changer. Okay. All right. So we're going to go through these lies that tell us, you guys are being shy today. All right, I'm just going to take a drink. So the first lie. So one of the things I want you to do is I want you to think about, oh, here, I'm doing this. Yeah, I'm doing this right now. Right, Linda, because you've been working with me. Linda was able to first meet me in the summer and did my 5-day free training and then joined my group and has made enormous strides. And so if you want to even just put in the chat one of the biggest shifts that you have, I'd love to hear it. Okay, so the first lie, so as there's going to be 5 lies. So of these, so one of the things I want to invite you to do is I want you to write down notes of the lies, and then even at the end, or you can do it even while as I'm talking, is what lie applies to you or which one doesn't. Okay. So the first one is, if I accept myself at this weight, I'll never lose the weight or change. Okay, so this lie, how many of you have heard this? It's like, I can't accept myself the way I am. Putting your hand up. Yeah. Did you want to come on the screen, Linda? Or you just say this is you? You can relate to that. So just write it in the chat. Okay, because right now I'm just going to talk through these, and then you'll watch. Yeah, perfect. That's what the plan is, to go through these, and then, yeah, so if you feel like this is the lie. So how often have you heard, once I get skinnier, then I will feel better? Why is that such a terrible lie? Because as I explained at the beginning of the webinar, in that one phase where you're like, okay, once I get to that weight, then I can accept myself, then I can feel better. But how often have you gotten to that weight and then you're like, wait a minute, my life isn't all of a sudden better? Because you white knuckled yourself to get there. And you thought only until you're that weight, then you can accept yourself, then you can love yourself, then you can feel good about yourself. Okay. Yes. So you will feel better physically, absolutely. But even someone like you who has lost 30 pounds, if you don't start appreciating that weight loss now, you're not going to have that same benefit. Even losing 5 pounds. I mean, if you carried around a 5-pound book everywhere you went and you didn't have that anymore, how much better are you going to feel? So one of my clients who just lost, how much did she lose? 27 pounds. I said, okay, I want you to go get a backpack, and I want you to put 27 pounds of whatever it is, like books or whatever, laundry soap, whatever fits in that backpack, but I want it to be 27 pounds. And I want you to walk around with that extra 27 pounds. And I want you to walk around with it for at least an hour and then take it off. Okay. And because some of us lose weight, but we don't own it, and we don't because we're afraid that it's going to come back on. So we don't connect with our body. All right. So we have this thought, like, I will feel better. So if I accept myself at this weight, I'll never lose the weight or change. So once I get skinnier, then I'll feel better. So it's like you're not giving yourself permission to enjoy the process. You won't let that be motivating. So it does the opposite though. So if you don't do the work along the way, you will find a different reason to beat yourself up. So that's a really big part of what happens to a lot of us, is we think, when I'm skinny, then I can be happy. Now, the problem is, when you go to work, you don't go to work and your boss will say, oh, interesting. Dr. Oz showed a 34-pound concrete block yesterday, just the amount I've lost. Yeah. So, and Marlene has been working with me. Like it's amazing. It's so exciting. So, but we really have to put that in our brain on how to really own this process. Because your boss, if you go to work and your boss is like going to get upset with you and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to get upset with you because you're skinny. I'm way nicer to skinny people. I think a lot of us actually think that people, and I know for myself, I can speak 100% for me, I legitimately believed that thinner people were happier. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with my friends on New Year's Eve, and my friend, my one friend in particular, was very, very thin. And I remember looking at her saying, oh my goodness, her life is better than mine, legitimately, because she never she never has to worry about what she's wearing. She doesn't have to worry about layering. She doesn't have to worry about people judging her. Like, I really did think that. I never actually realized like people could judge her for other things or whatever it is. And so it's been very interesting because even though I am thin now, and I have been, I've kept this weight, and in fact, I lost more than I even thought that I could. It's not that my life is better, but I actually don't have, when I go into the closet, it's more comfortable. When I go in the car and I put my seatbelt on, it's more comfortable. Like, there are legitimately things that are better in my life when I'm thinner. But I still have the life balance of 50-50. There are other things in my life that are challenging or difficult. But in the weight department, I just don't have the knee problems. I don't have the feet problems, the hip problems. And I have more fun when I shop. That's all. Doesn't make me a better person. Yeah. So if you don't do the self-love work until you lose the weight, you're not going to have it when it's not like automatically when you step on the scale, it's like the scale starts singing, oh, and then everything is better. And I don't have the picture on the screen, but I remember losing 20 pounds, and it was my daughter's basketball tournament. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm so proud of myself. I can take a picture right now. So rather being the 200 pounds, I was 100, I think it was like 185 or 180. And I thought, oh, I could take a better picture. This is going to be so much better. And now I weigh like 150. But it was like, I just allowed myself to appreciate what I actually had accomplished. And it just made such a difference. So this is a lie, because if you accept yourself at the weight, by accepting yourself, you're going to now say, hey, there's a reason why I weigh 250 pounds or 200 pounds. And let's just own it, and let's just like go with it. So you just accept it, and then you can move forward. Your relationship with yourself has changed so much. All right. The next one, I will feel better when I lose weight. So, whoops. That was this one. I will feel better when I lose weight. That was, once I get skinnier, then I will feel better. Won't be motivated. That's right. But this one is, if I accept myself this way, I'll never change. Okay, sorry. I'm getting my notes mixed up. There we go. So for this one, I switched them. Sorry about that. They're essentially very similar, right? So let's say, for example, if I love my body as it is, then it will never change. So when you look at your body, like the fat or whatever it is, and you really look at it, I want you to think, if you were eat a bag of Oreos, you wouldn't do that if you were loving yourself. You wouldn't eat junk when you're feeling good. So for example, a bag of Oreos does not respond well to the body, bloated or overfull. The tongue might like it, but you don't. So if you really accept yourself, if I accept myself at this weight, then I'll never lose a change, I want you to think about what body love actually is. So do you feel better when you're eating a bag of Oreos? Or do you feel better when you're eating like a really beautiful salad? If you really loved your body, how would you show up for your body? Shoving your face with a bunch of chips? Is that really loving your body? So when we eat a bunch of Oreos and a bunch of chips and ice cream, we're not connected to our body. We're literally just, I call it chasing a taste. Because every time we eat, we get a dopamine hit. And when we eat concentrated sugar and flour, then we get even more of a dopamine hit. And it's kind of like drugs. You need a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more to get that same level of dopamine hit. So if we were really listening to our body and really loving it, we wouldn't be shoving all the Oreos and everything in our body. Okay. So what are your thoughts on that? How often do you think about self-care, eating the really beautiful, healthy food as a way to take care of yourself? So I have a quick story of one of my clients. So she's a quilt shop owner and she does quilting retreats. And the whole thing with the quilting retreat, so much of it was like, they just planned so much junk. And they went on Pinterest and they'd look things up and they planned and prepare. And they had all these different foods that they were it was like a special treat. So she started working with me and she started realizing that this food that she was eating actually made her really sick. And it made her stomach like really, like she didn't feel so good, because we did like the no sugar and flour for 6 weeks. And even though that was a struggle, she really like embraced it. And so the next time she went on a retreat, she was like, oh my goodness, I actually don't even want this food, because we start changing our taste. And it was so fun for her to go to the grocery store, because she spent all of her time in the vegetable section, and then like looking at the meats and looking at like really nice cuts of meat and these beautiful vegetables. And she was imagining how like she was going to roast them or cook them and prepare them as salads or whatever she was going to do. And there was just this overwhelming love that she had for herself, because she was truly taking care of her body. And she knew that she was going to quilt and have a lot more fun with her people, because she was taking care of her body in such a beautiful way. And she even brought runners, and she even planned time for walking, because she knew that was getting out in the nature and just giving her lungs and her body a little bit of a break. And it wasn't like a long walks or anything, but she just knew that just felt so much better. Okay. The next one, I'm not capable of long-term weight loss. How many of us believe that? Okay. So we look for evidence. So we go to our past to say, yeah, you know what? I did this one diet and I went to Weight Watchers for this long length of time. Just not capable. I went to this one dietitian and she tried to do these things and I gained some weight in the beginning, right? A lot of us we have messed up our metabolic rate. Like we all have, if we've deprived ourselves with food for so long, or eaten a lot of, remember the days when they said eating rice crackers was a good idea? And we had no fat. So that was a really hard time for our human bodies, because we're not having any fats. We are eating a lot of refined sugar and flour. Even sugar, they said, had no fat in it. Remember that? And so our body was trying to work off of all of these refined sugars and flours, and we're not having a lot of fat to absorb any of it. And we're limiting our protein. So we really messed up our insulin, our leptin, and our ghrelin. Those are the 3 hormones that have to do with weight loss. And so then there's this instability, this insecurity with our body of like how much weight, how much energy source and how fast this energy source was coming. And so our metabolic system was kind of messed up. Yeah. And so we've got to work on regulating all of those things. And that is what I do with my clients at the beginning. We really work on getting our insulin, our leptin, and our ghrelin all sorted and organized. That's why we start getting in touch with our body. So our brain wants all of the dopamine. Did you know that? So as we are wired for survival. So before we talk about insecurity, before we knew that we had like grocery stores that we could go to, and before we had refined sugars and flours, there was actually insecurity of knowing if we were going to kill an animal or not. We didn't know if we were going to come across some berries to pick in the wild or some roots or whatever it was. We didn't know about the weather and if we could even plant, right? So there was this insecurity of knowing how much food we were going to have. So our brain actually wants us to get that dopamine hit because it's saying everything is going to be fine. You're going to have enough food storage. You're not going to die of starvation. We're going to be okay. So if, we're saying I'm not capable of long-term weight loss, and the brain is saying, hey, come on, let's feed us lots and lots, it's going to have doubt. It's going to come more and more. Okay. Especially if we're going to be eating foods that don't have the refined flour and sugar, and we're only eating when we're hungry because we're getting our leptin and ghrelin all sorted, the brain is going to retaliate. It's going to protest. Also, we haven't done it, so we don't think or believe it's possible. So my favorite example of this is when we were like 4 or 5, and people said, hey, we're going to buy you some new shoes. I'm going to teach you how to tie your shoelaces. And you're like, sorry, I've actually never tied shoelaces before. So I'm just not game for that. I've never done it. So I guess I can't, right? How often do we hold ourselves back because we haven't done something before? So we need to go to our future self, or we need to believe that someone else could believe in us. One of the things that I love about my clients is I have so much belief in them because I have so much proof in my tools and in my method that I'm like, hey, I hear you. I hear you're stressed. I hear you have doubt. It's fine. I have belief in you because I have belief in my tools. And then I help my clients start getting that belief in themselves. It's very exciting. And it's so much fun to watch them along the way. And there's stress and there's hardships, and it's okay. And I can help them, but the tools can help them too. And the more they practice, the more that they can doubt this. I'm not capable of long-term weight loss. It's like, well, we need to go to our future self to say, actually, we can have proof from our future that it's going to work. Yeah. So the past becomes our future. So Joe Dispenza is a medical doctor, and he studies a lot about the brain. And if we don't change the way we do things, then literally our life, our future just becomes our past. And we just keep living the same recycled life over and over. It's like Groundhog Day. We have to start changing the way we think. So if you say, I'm not capable of long-term weight loss, then you won't be, because you won't believe, or you won't even give yourself the opportunity to learn or to grow. Okay. And then, this is a huge part. 3 or 5 pounds derails us. So a lot of us get pretty confused with how weight loss works. So when we have the stock market and we invest in money, we can, this is the stock market. It starts here. So we can kind of go up, and then it might go down for a little bit, and then it might plateau, and then it goes up, and then it might even go down here. So this is our starting, and then it rises, and then it might go up, and then it might slowly increase. But the thing with the stock market is it will always have this upward trajectory. This is how weight loss works, but downwards. So we might start up here, at 220 pounds. And we might do a really good job and we might lose like 8 pounds really fast, or 5 or 6 pounds. And then we might plateau, and then we might gain 2 or 3 pounds. And then we might have a whoosh and things go really well. Linda knows all about this. And then we might gain some weight and then it goes down again. This is totally normal. I can gain 4 pounds in a day. It's like, and we've been learning, I've been learning and diving deeper into how our female cycle works. Even if you no longer have a menstruation period, we still have a cycle. And so we have the first 15 days, our estrogen goes up and then it affects us and then it drops off. And then our progesterone goes for 2 weeks and then it drops and then the estrogen. So we are literally still having a cycle, because it's not, even if you've had a hysterectomy, you're still having a cycle, and our progesterone and our estrogen influence the way like we could be more irritable. And so if we're really learning to listen and getting in tune with our body, and if we're monitoring our self-talk, then we can work within that. If we are having a lot of really negative self-talk, that actually lowers our estrogen. And if we're taking on a lot of responsibility, that can increase our testosterone, and that can affect the way we think about ourselves, the way we approach our food. And then of course, that can affect how we show up. Okay, the next one, the thought is, this isn't working, or it's not going fast enough. So I just explained about the stock market, how it can go up and then drop and then plateau. And so how often do you think, okay, I got this, I'm going to be really good. And you go Monday morning, you go to the grocery store, you buy all the things, you've printed off the list on Instagram or Pinterest, I should say, of some diet or a book or something. And you're like, okay, I'm all in. There's some testimonials here. It's going to be just great. And so you buy all the things, and by Wednesday, you're like, oh my goodness, there should definitely be a decrease on the scale, because this is like really hard, but I'm going to trust the book. Okay. And you get on the scale and you might not have lost any weight. In fact, you might have gained some weight. And then you're like, this isn't working. I am broken. This is awful. This can also happen with the treadmill. Same thing. You're like, okay, 3 mornings in a row, I put my running shoes on first thing and I went for my walk. Okay. How often does this happen for you? And you feel very disappointed, because the problem is we think it's very linear. And one of the problems that I find, and especially with the work that I do, I am the president of the Perfection Recovery Program, and I have a legit 12-step program. It is patterned after the Alcoholics Anonymous, but in my own version of the work that I've done with all the women and myself. And so one of the things that the brain really wants to do is it wants to have a formula. It wants to say, I do this and I do this and it equals this. And it feels very comfortable. And I know for myself as a school teacher and as a mother, and when I started my business, I was like, okay, I want to be able to say I can do this for an hour and I can do this for 2 hours, and then I will have this. I think that's why one of the reasons quilting is really rewarding is because we can actually get it very systematic. It takes me this long to cut out these things. It takes me this long to sew this. It takes me this long to square things up. And it's very exciting because it's very predictable, and you can have this very tangible outcome at the end. Okay. However, weight loss is not that way. Weight loss, so depending on our cycle, depending on, some people are affected by the weather. There's a little bit of influence there. And so it's difficult because we can be eating well but our body, if we have a little bit more salt and we retain water, maybe we're not drinking enough. Maybe we're constipated and we're not releasing our food. There's actually a lot of mental stuff that happens with constipation, because there's like that food insecurity, and then the body doesn't want to release the nutrients. That might be a little too much information for you, but it's actually real. And so then you're not really regular. And so then you're blocked up. And so you have more things going on. And if you're having thoughts like this isn't working, then you're not open to really figuring out what's going on. Another thing is, it's a lie that it's not working, or it's just not a linear black and white system of weight loss. There are so many factors that influence weight. So like I said, stress, sleep is a really big one. Hormones. I know for me, when I stopped quilting, I used to quilt till 3, sometimes 4 in the morning, 5 days a week. When I was running my quilting business and having my 5 children, my kids are still at home, but I would start work at 10 o'clock at night. I would start quilting usually by then, 9:30, 10, put the kids to bed, and I had working hours. And when I stopped doing that, and I actually started getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, I dropped like, I think it was like 7 pounds. It was amazing. My body was like, thank you. This is what I needed. So sleep really does affect your weight loss. So I want you to think about when we plant a seed. So when you plant a seed, it's like, okay, seed, you don't like put the water in and be like, okay, the seed isn't growing. This seed is a dud. We got to get rid of it. No, we just, every day we make sure it has sun, make sure it has some water, and eventually it'll start growing. But like every night before you go to bed, you're like, okay, I'm the worst. This is the worst seed. You're awful. You're not growing. You're terrible. There is germination process, right? And the same thing with our weight loss and like working on all these things. If we're constantly saying this isn't working, then we're not helping ourselves. Okay. Now the 5th one is basically the next lie is our hormones. This one's a really big one. Our hormones are out of whack. Our hormones are, out of whack. And I can't lose weight. Right? So how many times have you really legitimately believed, and I can speak from personal experience, I truly believe that I could not lose weight because I was experiencing perimenopause. And I was like, my hands were tied. I'm like, I have no control over this. But what I want to teach you is that when it's not the hormones that are out of whack, it's our thoughts and how we're acting that affects them. Okay. So of the 5, I want to hear what's going on for you of the 5 lies. So my hormones are out of whack. I have had a hysterectomy, or I have menopause and I just can't lose weight. This isn't working. It's not going fast enough. I'm not capable of long-term weight loss. If I love my body as it is, then I will never change. I will feel better once I lose weight. Those are the 5. So of the 5, which one is probably the most predominant for you? And we do have time in this webinar if someone wants to raise their hand, and I can coach them on the call, because I really love for people who aren't in my program to see the benefit of what it's like to get coached. I'm not capable of long-term weight loss. Okay. So is there anyone on this call who would be willing to get coached? You can just raise your hand and I can put you on and we can talk about that. Because number 4 isn't, oh, this isn't working. Right. So even that thought, you want to get coached, Christy? You're being shy. So I want us to think about in this model. So the circumstance is weight loss, okay? It's just you want, or just even your body's weight. I'm not capable of long-term weight loss. I am also the queen of stuck. I haven't given up, but I have been eating sugar and don't feel as well as when I don't eat it. Right. This is Christy and Barbara. Right. Okay. Whoever, if you want to get coached, just raise your hand. Okay. I can do it this way, or if you want to come on the screen and we can talk face to face, that's fine too. Okay. So when you have this thought, this isn't working. How do you feel? How do you feel when you have that thought, this isn't working? Defeated. Discouraged, right? Okay, so now this is called the model. Now the model is a way of us to think about our thinking. And we are unintentionally getting this all of the time, right? We are always getting results in our life. But if we're not conscious of our thoughts, then we're now on autopilot and these things are just happening to us and we're feeling like out of control. Because you're like, I don't even know what's happening. I just feel so, whatever that feeling is, okay? So when you have the feeling of discouraged, so we have the circumstance of just weight loss or even like body temperature, body weight. And then you have the thought, this isn't working, and you feel discouraged. What are the actions you take when you feel discouraged? So because our feeling is always going to be the fuel for our actions. So I like to think of it as, in our car, we have to put the gas in and we go to the gas station and they're like, there's all these different gas pumps. And this one is like, there's joy, there's happiness, there's clarity, there's frustration, and there's discouraged. And you're like, oh, I have this thought, this isn't working, and I feel discouraged. So you're going to go to that gas tank and you're going to fill your car with discouraged. So now you're in your car and you're driving with discouraged feelings. So when you feel discouraged, what are the actions you take? And all of you can do this, even though this was Christy or Barb, whoever wrote it, they're looking at it together. When you feel discouraged about the thought, this isn't working, what actions do you take? You give up? So do you keep trying? No. You likely will pick up the closest food, right? You stop trying. So it's interesting because even I have clients, it's so interesting. I'll say it'd be week 4. I say, oh, how much weight have you lost? How are you doing on your sugar, no sugar and flour? They're like, oh, we're doing it. And I say, well, how much weight have you lost? They're like, oh, I've only lost 5 pounds. Like, you've lost 5 pounds. Like that's a terrible thing. So they're not even giving themselves the opportunity to say, like, it actually is working, because before they would probably have gained 5 pounds or just stayed the same. Okay. So let's see here. I'd like to hear. So if you do want to get coached, just raise your hand. I'm not going to put you on here if you don't want it, and that's okay. But in the action line, so if you feel discouraged by the thought, this isn't working, so you probably, you probably stop trying, or you don't try as hard. You kind of, oh, here we go. Perfect. I'm going to promote you to panelist. All right, way to go. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
Okay. Oh, and of course, this is the cuteness factor. Okay. Okay, so when you have the thought, this isn't working, and then you feel discouraged, what do you do?
Well, I think I generally just go for the food again, because you want the dopamine hit. Oh, yeah, the dopamine hit is always good.
Right, because you always know, it's like guaranteed. That's how we are wired. Like, you remember when you were a kid, right? Your mom could say something, your dad could say something, you get in a fight with your sister, and you're like, well, at least the food doesn't yell at me. Right? I used to go in my freezer. My mom had like baking chocolate, which is disgusting. I would like gnaw on it because I like the chocolate doesn't disappoint me. Right? Because I'm like, everyone else is yelling at me. You think everything is terrible because you're being your, So you know that you're going to have that dopamine hit, so you go to the food. What else happens when you feel discouraged?
Yeah, I think you start beating up on yourself for it.
Yeah. You've got some negative self-talk. What else happens? Do you do any journaling? Do you actually start getting curious with your brain of what's going on? No, you turn your brain off. I don't want to talk to you, brain. You're bugging me, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's that head in the sand kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like,
and I'll tell myself things like over the years, it's like, oh, why didn't I love myself when I was at that weight? I should have just been happy there. And then I'll think, maybe if I just be happy here, I'll stay here. But, it's that slowly creeping up weight gain. Oh, by the way, my husband was down 5 pounds on the scale. So now he's 149.8 this morning.
yes.
I'm like, and he's still eating flour and sugar. Like, dude. Yeah.
Do you know how many husbands lose weight working with me?
Oh yeah.
They don't even work with me. Their wives do. It's great.
Exactly. And he doesn't need to lose weight either. I'm just like,
yeah.
And he ate those donuts my neighbor brought,
There you go. But so this is interesting though. I really need you all to get very, very focused on this. This isn't working. Because you could actually say, let's say, for example, you're quilting on something and you are, you're working on your half squares, triangles, and you don't starch them. You're like, this isn't working. And so you could actually get curious to what's happening. So you could actually have that same thought, this isn't working, and you could actually get curious. But right now you have the thought, this isn't working. And when you feel discouraged, you stop trying. You go for the food. You don't give yourself the dopamine hit, so you're turning to the food for it. You have this negative self-talk. You turn off your brain, so you go and hide, right? You're hiding with the food or buffering. Maybe you go buy some more fabric or something. You don't appreciate what you actually have. You're like, well, I actually have felt less brain fog and I have actually lost some weight, right?
Yeah.
And then, so when you spend all your time not appreciating what you have, like your successes, you turn off your brain, so you buffer, you have this negative self-talk, you go for the food, right? And then you stop trying. What's your result going to be?
More discouragement.
It doesn't work. Because you're not even doing the plan. You're doing like the opposite of what the plan is telling you to do. So you actually, the weight loss isn't working. So this form of weight loss isn't working. So it's not working. Okay, so do you see how your thoughts actually become your result? Because is the plan to stop trying and going for food and talking to yourself negatively and turning off your brain and not appreciating yourself?
Not the plan.
Not the plan. But now the plan becomes that. That's your new plan. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the unintentional model. And one of the problems that happens with us as humans is because we don't intend to do this, like you didn't wake up in the morning and say, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a jerk to myself. I'm going to stop trying. I'm going to like just turn to food for a quick dopamine hit. I'm going to talk really bad to myself. I'm going to turn off my brain. I'm going to do some buffering. Then I'm not going to appreciate myself. Right? We never wake up doing that. But we end up doing that because we are like a toddler in a candy store. Because we haven't thought about our thinking. So then the perfectionist comes in and be like, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. And then we just go further and further down the hole. Right?
Yep.
So why do you think this happens?
I think because I always want fast results. Like I didn't eat the sugar. I always have a joke that I will gain weight just by looking at food.
Right.
You know, like I thought about those donuts, and so therefore I gained weight.
Yeah. We have these expectations. One of the problems with perfectionism too is we don't manage our expectations because we don't think about it, right?
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah.
Because the other problem is, and I caught you saying that, you're like, I thought about the donuts. It was so hard. It was like, and my husband, he's lost all this weight and I've done all this work. Like you actually you're not giving yourself the opportunity to be like, did you know that I'm an amazing human? I have gone without any sugar and flour for 5 weeks. Has it been 5 weeks?
It's been 6 weeks.
6 weeks. I'm amazing. I'm like way better than I thought.
Yeah.
Do you ever say that to yourself?
I've been trying to have some positive self-talk, but you know, it takes a little bit of practice.
Of course.
I did make a goal yesterday of what I want to do with my life. And I realized I wanted to play in the snow. And then I was like, I want to make a snow angel, but I didn't go out yesterday. But today I forgot to go make a snow angel. So I went back out in the snow and I made 3 snow angels in the snow and got myself back out. We had like 19 inches of snow yesterday. So it was deep. So there you go. There's my really high achiever, realistic goals.
Right. Because where does joy come from?
Snow angels.
Absolutely.
Snow. Being silly.
The joy comes from thinking you're going to do something, honoring what you said you were going to do, and loving yourself because you did it. So whether it's not eating sugar for or whatever that is, it's like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to honor myself, and I'm just going to do it. Whereas here, it's like when you have the thought like this isn't working, it feels terrible. It's like you've got like icicles on your feet. You're just like, this is awful. This is no fun because it's not working.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not working.
Right. So let's go to this. We're going to do, we've got it. So this is just the circumstance, weight loss here. So what if you have the thought, this is working? Or what about even we could say the same thought, this isn't working. Let's just do that. This isn't working. And what would happen if we were like curious? Can we change the emotion here?
Yeah.
Okay. So and all of you ladies in the chat, please contribute because you're all part of this. I love that we're all here. So good. So when we got curious, you're like, this isn't working. What would be an action when you had the thought, this isn't working? You're like, this isn't working. What isn't working? What happened?
My thought would be, what am I doing wrong? What should I be doing differently?
Yeah. So maybe your action is like, look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
So finally, you can actually even look at it. Because before you're like head in the sand. Like, this is terrible. I don't even want to like deal with it, right? So you turn off your brain, but here you're like, ooh, what do you mean this isn't working? So you get kind of curious. Then what do you do?
Look over your protocol and, go through step by step and say, okay, are there things I am doing? Are there parts of this that are working? And is there a specific part of it that's not? Instead of like a generalizing, oh, this isn't working. It's a, what step is there a step missing? Is something not, done right? If your sewing machine isn't forming a stitch, you're going to look and say, oh, is my bobbin incorrectly? Did I run out of thread? Is my thread caught on something?
Right.
Did my needle break? Is my needle dull?
Yeah. So you look at the details. And so you even so you actually start doing, you go to the manual, right? You go to the protocol rules. You watch the videos. And this is a little different for those watching the replay. These ladies are actually in my program. So that's super fun that we're doing this. So you go back to the videos, you go back to the the handouts. And you're just like, oh, maybe I missed something. Right? This is interesting. Oh, and then you can also start you're like, oh, wait a minute. Tara talks about these tools she has. I wonder how often I'm using the tools. Right? So then you're like, I wonder if I did some thought downloads. I wonder if I did do some models. I wonder if I did do the worksheet that she had there. That would be interesting. So then so you're like tools. It's like, okay, maybe if I took one tool and did it for 20 minutes a day, I wonder how that would be. Because when we're curious, we become like a scientist, right? We're like, oh. And so now we're not judging ourselves. Like we're not like, I'm a failure. I'm deficient. Something's wrong with me. You're like, oh, I just haven't figured it out yet. Kind of like attention problem. I like that example, Christy. It's like, why am I still getting all this? Why am I getting these balls underneath my sewing? These thread knots, they're terrible. Oh, I can clean some things out, right? Yeah. So you just get curious. You're like, okay, I'm gonna problem solve. I'm gonna look at my tools. I'm gonna look at the details. I'm gonna watch some videos. I'm gonna look at maybe I'm gonna get some help. Like, oh, I can get some help. Ask for help. You also could do some note taking, right? Like, I'm actually going to write down everything I'm eating. I'm going to collect data. That's cool. Because, all these other women are getting these results. It's working for other people. Got to work for me. Bingo. I have not been intentionally curious about what I've been doing, feeling, eating. Aren't you so glad you spent this time with us, Linda? Love it. Yeah. This, by the way, is my favorite. One of my favorite emotions. So now, Barb, when you're note-taking, you're collecting data and you're looking at what you're doing, you get the details, like you're looking at the factors, you're watching the videos, you're doing the handouts, you're problem solving, you're applying the tools, you're asking for help. When you spend all your time in these actions, what is the result?
I think you've got to lose weight because you're so busy doing all this stuff. You don't have time to eat.
Well, you're going to get the results. You're going to figure it out. Not going to have time to eat. You're going to figure out the best way that you lose weight. Because you're like, I'm all in. I'm just going to figure it out. It's amazing. And you're just going to like collect data. You're going to get curious. You're going to use the tools. You're going to ask for help. And you're just like dedicated. You're going to, another thing you're going to do is you're going to prioritize your time to solving this. Isn't that cool? So you're going to create boundaries for people and say, hey, actually, this is my time. Because it's going to work.
Yep.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
All right. So ladies, thank you so much. We went a little overtime. Not a problem. I love coaching you. I love sharing all of this every Thursday. And you can go to my YouTube channel. And if any of you are watching this and you're curious about how it would be like to work with me, just message me and I will help you. So thank you, Barb and Christy. Thank you, everyone else who came to this webinar. I love you all. So good. Take care.
Bye. Bye.